My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast. Bit of an interesting night.
It is indeed, you know. We had a hot chocolate.
We had a hot chocolate. That was good. That was a fun night.
The cat decided to sleep on the laundry, so that's great.
Yeah, we watched the Channel 10 promo. We watched the Channel 10 promo last night, and that basically summed up the whole episode tonight.
Look, the Channel 10 promo is that person who goes, I want to take you to this restaurant. The food is amazing. You'll be blown away. And then you get there and you get the shittest service. You get a really crappy table right next to the toilet. And, you know, it's really busy. You can't hear anything. And the dish that they say is so amazing comes out and they're loving it. They are hoeing into it, the person who took you there. And you take a bite and you're like, oh, my God. I'm going to have to get Macca's on the way home.
Like, it's good. But I had this other thing built up. So we're going to start with Reynold. We're going to start with Reynold. As you can expect after a challenge tonight and after the way that I tweet out, Twitter melted down.
Yeah.
I got attacked by blue ticks tonight.
Who's that?
Was fantastic. People with blue ticks next to their names. So people who are verified by Twitter.
Oh.
It's a whole new level of...
I told you, we're going up in the world.
F-list rowboat, here we come. So, blue ticks had a go tonight. That was fantastic. Now, look, I'm going to lay it all out because we get a lot of, you absolutely hate Reynold, just admit you hate Reynold, just admit your bias against Reynold. Look, okay, here's where we're going to go. I'm going to start with a bit of a chat about Reynold.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to start. Let's start with the basics. At no point have we ever said that Reynold is not highly skilled.
He is amazingly skilled and
very
inventive.
We have said that he is an artist.
Yep.
We've talked about the fact that he creates art. We've always said his visuals are fantastic.
Yep.
Right? One of the things they've said in the competition, by the way, is the flavour balance can sometimes be a bit out. And that's not us having a go. That's something that has been said of him in this competition numerous times, not just in this series, but in his previous series.
Yeah, and what I pick up from Reynold, he's a slow burner. Like, give him time and he will give you greatness.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is that there's never been a comment about his skill.
No.
Never been a comment about his skill. No one goes, he's not skilled. Okay, that's the first thing we want to get out there. Are we personally probably experiencing a little bit of Reynold burnout? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Why are we experiencing Reynold burnout? So let's go through what it is. So, okay, I had a number of people tonight who tried to use the Laura thing and go, but she does pasta all the time, and she did pasta last night. First of all, she hasn't made pasta in bloody well forever, and we'll get to that challenge. And it wasn't for just egregious purposes. It was about the memory of her nonna and using the theme of the night, okay? Yeah. But we'll come to that when we talk about that challenge, okay? So we get a lot of the whole, Laura does pasta all the time. Again, there's been a bit of a gap there. We've talked about the idea of people doing the same thing over and over again, and you want to see them do something different. The judges themselves remarked the other night about Reynold doing a savoury dish and remarked, we were worried you were going to do another dessert. We're good to see you're not doing that. And since that one, he has only made desserts. Right? So he's gone back to, now people go, it's about being safe. So we've had the weird dichotomy tonight of conversation online. I'm going to just break it down. It was a very circular argument. And this is where it became really hard to have the conversation on Twitter, which is why I kept saying to people, listen to the podcast. It's easier to do that here than it is on Twitter, which becomes circular. So the argument I got from people was, one, this is about professionals and they're showing off what they're doing in their kitchens. Right? That was the first argument that I had.
Okay.
Come back from people, okay? Then I had, he's never made this dish before. He's come up with it in the kitchen. Then what's happened is he's gone back and put it on the menu at Koi. Now, that argument, A, seems to defeat the first argument. Secondly, this was filmed a month ago. So, and also it was on the Instagram, but it has since been removed from the Instagram before tonight's episode. And you do a Google search, Reynold Snitch. You go into image search, it pops up in the feed that was in his Instagram, but when you click on that, it is no longer in the Instagram feed. So they've taken it off the Instagram feed.
Which really, it's a very confusing message that comes through because he's like, this is a big gun that I've been, holding on to, wanting to pull out. So he's been thinking about it. Has he practiced it? Possibly. I mean, they're all there, in their apartments or wherever they're staying, with time on their hands, particularly in the lockdown, there's no going out. So, cooking is a cool pastime. And I'm like, do it. That's what you can fucking do when you're in that. You know, like we spoke about Poe being in the sandbox. So he's talking about pulling out the big guns, and there just happens to be wing molds.
The wing molds, well, clearly Reynold had brought the wing molds with him.
Which is cool.
Which is fine, not a problem.
I'm not worried about that. I'm kind of like, that's cool. But why? It seems to be like it's a marketing ploy, and that's fair enough. He's got a fucking business.
And look, again, if you're back in this competition in Back to Win, you probably have something to market. That is not a crime, and that is not a problem. All we've said all the way through is acknowledging. Now, the problem with tonight was there was a partial acknowledgement, but then a not acknowledgement, then there was, then there wasn't, then there's, this is something I've worked on, this is something I've been waiting to bring out because I've worked on this, followed by him saying, I've never tasted the elements together. Okay, so which is true? And again, I'm going to say this straight up. I do not blame Reynold for any of this, and this is not a shot at Reynold. The editing and the storytelling in the episode tonight was thoroughly confusing, and the advertising was borderline disgraceful. And it's not like you could easily forget, and we almost did at one point. Laura and Callum did an amazing job tonight coming up with some really interesting things that were, as the judges said themselves, completely outside of their comfort.
Absolutely. And this is my other critique is Reynold was he's skilled, but the techniques he's using in his desserts are the same techniques.
So this is where we're
different flavours.
Yep.
But same techniques. And tonight he's gone for a 2-hour cook, and all he seemed to do was the same skills and techniques, just more of them.
It's like, are they fantastic? Yes, they are. Absolutely, no doubt. But I could have provided you with a list of the techniques that he does. And someone commented to us tonight on Twitter, well, what about, the idea of surely that's all the dessert techniques? Well, no, there's a bunch of other pastry, cake, and the interesting part with cake is that Reynolds tried cake twice. One was the chocolate cake that cracked and was too dry, and the other one was the cake that he put into the Bomb Alaska, which was too thick and wasn't the right consistency and didn't work. So obviously there are things that he can continue to build on, and that's not saying that he's weak or crap or anything. I don't want anyone to twist my words. What I'm saying is there is still development there that can make him even better at what he does if he branches out. Now, okay, so all of that sort of being said there, the issue itself is not Reynold. It's the confusing narrative being put together in the episodes.
Now, we can wind this back to the Alice in Wonderland dish, which came across from the story being told on Masterchef that it was just an idea that he pulled out of the air and he just presented it on,
this led to the last time we got absolutely bombarded on Twitter, which was when we first got the pitchforks and torches, where people came out at us and went, oh, you're just calling him out. Look, this is on the menu at Koi. I have every belief it was on the menu at Koi, or if not on the menu at Koi, at the very least it was in the planning to be on the menu at Koi.
Yeah.
And he went in going, I'll put it on the menu at Koi once I've done it in MasterChef. At the very best. Now, that's not a criticism. That's not me saying, this is the thing. People got caught up with that part of the argument tonight on Twitter.
Yeah.
But the crux of the argument, and the thing we were actually talking about before all that came up, was about the techniques and the consistency of the same element in every one. I could have done a list beforehand. There's a mousse, there's a snow, there's a twirl, there's a sorbet of some description. Right? There's a bunch of basically we can list nitrogen. Them. If you go back through, and look at all of the cooks. There is a very...
I know wing molds are new, but it was a twirl.
Yeah. There is a very, very consistent thing all the way through this of him using the same elements time and time again. For the last 2 weeks on Twitter, every time there's an element coming up, Twitter's been going tick, 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 to tick off the fact that we know what elements are being used.
And I know there are arguments where it's like, okay, well, other people are doing, hibachi'd meat and
we've talked about that.
And all that, and sous vide and blah, 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 but they're not consistently staying in that lane.
Yeah, and we had said...
There's movement around it.
And we had said, the other thing too is that with the pasta, for example, to use that as the example, we talked about the fact there is a bit of a difference between the techniques in the different forms of pasta. right? Pasta is a base, but the different forms of techniques and the different broths and the different oils and the different things that are the accoutrement to that help to expand that out. Laura hasn't done pasta in a very long time. Last night is the first time in a very long time, which everyone commented on and went, oh, you've gone back to it. Tonight, when she could have quite easily gone, cook whatever you want in whatever time frame you want.
Yeah.
And there was not a moment where she went, pasta, right?
Yeah, no, and this is the thing, like, tonight, it's perfectly valid to go, this is something I've been planning and I want to bring it out. Now, let's take, for example, Reese and his friggin' lemon tart.
Yep.
I cook a mean lemon tart, And
he does it and they go,
you make a nice lemon tart.
It's nice. But
my lemon tart, people. He's the friend that takes you to the restaurant, and it's lovely. It's delightful. Is it the best?
No. It was good.
Yeah.
It was great. I've had...
There seems to be a lot of forcing in manufacture, and this is what the crux of it is for me, is that if this was something that Reynold had planned, great. If he wanted to create a dessert that comes out at Koi, that, has appeared on MasterChef, fair enough. It worked for Peter What's-His-Facey with the snow egg.
Yep, 100% Peter What's-His-Facey.
Sorry, I just had a blank, me and my blanks. At least I got his first name, right?
You did. You did, 100%. Do you want to name the restaurant at least?
Yes.
So for the Q.
Yeah.
It's the Opera House.
The Key?
Yeah, well done.
Okay. So it does work.
Peter Gilmore.
Peter Gilmore. So that wasn't manufactured though. That was an actual beautiful, magical moment where something new was introduced onto television. What I feel has happened in the past 24 hours, and they've been sizzling it for fucking weeks, is this the best dish in MasterChef history?
I hate that. And it's not just with Reynold. I hate it when they do it with anyone.
Yeah.
Right? I hate the fact they consistently call them all these MasterChef legends.
Oh,
right?
Food genii.
Not a shot at anybody in this competition, but they keep on, they've been referring to it all the way through.
Pretty fucking good.
Yeah, you're all fucking amazing. Everyone who's been back is amazing, but they keep on referring to it as the best of the best. And I don't like being the person to point this out, but nobody in the competition won it.
Like, if you had all the first... everyone... Like, if you had Elena, if you had fucking Diana come back, if you had Billy there... Larissa! Who were some of the guys who won it? Adam Lior. If you get a few of the Julie, the first peoples... The first peoples... No, I'm so sorry. No respects. Anyway, that is the best of the best. And then you can play, the best around.
What this should actually be is they
Karate Kid montage.
They should have actually advertised this as, some fucking brilliant MasterChefs. Like, I would have taken that. But what a billboard. Yeah. Fucking brilliant MasterChefs.
FBMs. But you know what pissed me off as well tonight? Callum and Laura had fucking brilliant cooks. Out of those three, like, every single dish, no one had. Like, the biggest catastrophe tonight, Laura's rock bottoms didn't work. Her pebble bums.
She hit rock bottom. The other thing, just quickly to finish off the Reynold point, because I want to finish it off and I want to move on with our lives. I really do. The Twitter mentions would appreciate it. Reynold himself spent a lot of time in the early part of this competition saying, my aim for this competition is to prove I'm more than desserts. And I do a lot more than desserts. And that was the whole narrative with Reynold.
Yeah.
Not only am I back to win, I want to prove I do a lot more than desserts. And we've gone back to desserts. Now, again, not a criticism.
No.
But what we're talking about is narrative, right? We're talking about narrative. This whole conversation is not about Reynold, and it's not about what Reynold is doing. It's about an editing choice and a narrative and an editing choice. And I'm not liking the fact as well that we're building up one over the group when it's a group and we're down to the last five. Tonight there were three.
And who knows, Laura could end up in the top two. And what kind of...
Yeah, Callum, I believe he has a cooking school.
I know. And, kudos to him. I hope he teaches that liver parfait. The other thing I want to point out here, and it's something that we have always said, MasterChef becomes boring when people play safe and they play to win. Now, if we think of the people in this season who've been so much fun to watch, like Poe, they have seen the opportunity for what it is. a playground where they can get in and experiment and push themselves. And we saw Poe lose it when she had to prove to herself that she could do these two things that she wasn't able to do. And it's like, if she'd have just got back into that spirit of, fuck it, I am going to just do what the fuck ever, mash a lobster with a friggin' branch of acacia and then, like, create a ritual experience where people dance around to hibachi and like.
Look, to be honest with you, my biggest disappointment this season so far is we haven't had anyone dance around to hibachi.
Look, not on camera.
Well, yeah, again, and look, there was a perfect opportunity to meet our 10-shot challenge the other week with a Broadway number, dancing around a hibachi. We didn't get the damn thing. All right, so tonight,
and Monty Python.
So look,
Monty Python.
So look, tonight's.
Looking for some hot hibachi, baby, to see.
So tonight's episode, the problem with tonight's episode is that, look, Reynold dominated the landscape.
Yeah.
It absolutely dominated the landscape.
And it detracted from, like, Laura's beautiful concept dish. And I know we've seen, like, little seafood, like, seaside platters before, but she actually created one that was very cohesive, visually stunning, and there wasn't a weak element on there. And then you had Callum, who, as he said, he took a chef's favourite. How many chicken liver parfaits have chefs eaten over the years, and elevated it. So it for me, it was a real kick in the guts to the other two contestants there. This is not the Reynold show.
To be honest with you, I'm going to be very honest with this. Look, the last time we had this big sort of blow up with Reynold was the rabbit hole. Okay, rabbit hole was far better than the snitch.
Oh, hell
I'm going to say that straight up. It was far more creative. It was far better than the snitch. That's not to say the snitch is bad. I'm not saying the snitch is bad. I can already hear people going, no, you're wrong. You just hate him. Admit it. No, I don't. I've gone back and rewatched The Rabbit Hole, which I had to redo after that episode because, as I said, that night was just impossible. Rabbit Hole was far more impressive than the snitch. I actually anticipated the snitch to be a more impressive dish than it ended up being. I'm not saying it's not good. You know what? Again, and the biggest complaint, a lot of people raise this with Harry Potter fans raised it. How many wings are there on a snitch?
There's 2.
Not on Reynolds, there wasn't. More wings is always better.
Yeah.
No, it's wrong.
No. I've just realised how we could have made this dish awesome. Just put blue, white and pink in the centre. So when they cut it open, trans flag. Just a trans pride flag. And maybe like a little like sparkler that goes off and spells out the words, trans lives matter.
So
just the words.
Look, the funniest part about this is I don't think that anyone anticipated that in terms of Twitter conversation, a Harry Potter themed dessert was going to be a thing that would become controversial. But boy, here we are. Ew, dear. Anyway,
Rita Skeeter would be going nuts.
So just quickly, kudos to Reynold. Obviously, the flavours are obviously spectacular. The techniques are obviously very good, right? Never been a question on any of that. We're talking about edit, we're talking about theme, we're talking about story.
And authenticity.
And authenticity is something, and again, I know people are going to go, but authenticity and reality, what are you expecting? A little bit more than what we've got. That's all we're saying. That's all we're saying.
We're not idiots.
So again, and the other question, again, I'll leave you with this question so we can move on with our lives because I really want to move on from this. I'm just done with it. But I want to finish with this point.
Yeah.
You can either be, everyone should be allowed to cook whatever they want from restaurants and there should be no limits on this and there should be no criticism of this, in which case, if you're bagging out people like Laura for making pasta, shut the fuck up. Right? If that's your point, shut up because you've got no comeback. Or you go, okay, well, they probably shouldn't be doing those sorts of things then, in which case you go, well, Reynold could be doing something a bit more. We know he's a creative person. I'd love to see him create something in the kitchen, on the fly. Just something out of nothing and go, yep, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. On that, though, I think that, like, one of the problems with believing people are a genius or good or whatever is the belief that they have to come up with something on the fly.
Don't. It's work.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who, invention comes out of failure and consistent and still being able to get through failure and do it, which is why I admire people like Reynold.
But this goes back to something we've talked about before on the podcast. We have had this conversation. We've put forward these sorts of ideas and we joked around with it this week on the drinking game. I would love to see them give them a 24-hour challenge.
Foraging challenge.
Well, the foraging
10
challenge,
shots.
we'll come back to that in a minute. But I want to see them do something, like, and they could do it with these guys, where they go, okay, you've got a day.
Yeah.
Here's your concept. You've got a day to plan it. Come back tomorrow. You've got 2.5 hours. Make it. Right? Then we get to see what creativity takes place when they've got time to do it. I think that is a very good challenge, and I think that is a challenge that allows these highly skilled people in the kitchen to demonstrate the range of their skills.
Yeah, and actually show us a bit of their process.
Yeah, like Reynold wanted more time tonight.
He's like
for the
3
cook.
hours and like I could just see
And nobody else was that dumb.
Laura and Callum are like,
I love Callum.
We give you 3 hours and like this whole place turns into a dessert bar.
I
don't think so.
I loved Callum's 10 minutes for a toaster sandwich. That's great. Fantastic. All right. So we've sort of talked about tonight's episode. I don't really want to talk about tonight's episode anymore.
No.
Right. I don't want to go back through it because it was largely focused on that Reynold narrative. Let's go back, however, because we do need to talk about a really sad event for everybody. We lost the artiste. The artiste went home. So before we get into the artiste going home, let's quickly go through the drinking game. Close up of trophy.
Oh,
Tick.
so many.
Yuzu, Reynold, thank you very much. Vespa, thank you very much. Liquid nitrogen, thank you very much. The Drunkle Andy comments. Oh boy, Drunkle Andy had a big week. Hibachi, no. We thought.
Yeah, because Amelia
she
brought
didn't do it.
Where'd you get the coals from?
She did not use the hibachi. She was at great pains last night on Twitter to point out not a hibachi in sight. So
where'd
no
the coals come
hibachi.
from?
Coals.
Coals,
So
Amelia,
and Channel 10
coals.
tonight. Channel 10 tonight at one point when I said something about the where did the wings come from? Channel 10 tweeted back with coals, and I said, let me guess, next to the liquid nitrogen. The reimagining a classic.
No.
No, not really.
Callum did.
Yes, he did. You're right.
The parfait.
Yes, he
The
did.
little parfait.
And
Thank
the
you,
garden
Callum.
is in play. It was indeed in play, especially with the terrariums. Anyway, so that leads us to the middle square. And God, we nearly got this.
So close. I mean, Chris goes, Kristie, think of a 10-shot square. Just a crazy 10-shot square. I'm like, 24-hour foraging challenge.
And as somebody on Twitter pointed out, what we really got was a 24-minute foraging challenge.
Oh, so close.
So we were
Just
so
another 23 hours and
close.
36 minutes. Look at you
So
doing that.
close. Anyway, let's get into what happened. So I got a bit worried when everyone was talking like Drunkle Andy on the way in on Sunday night. I feel like they've all been stuck with him for far too long. Now Drunkle Andy.
Too many Zoom catch-ups so they don't get lonely.
Now Drunkle Andy the other night, and a lot of people were getting really unhappy with people criticising Andy's fashion sense.
I don't think it's his lack of fashion sense. I think it's his lack of pants legs.
Yeah.
We know it's a look.
So I put out a question. Drunkle Andy's outfit tonight looks like he's going to. Victoria responded with an Irish-themed disco. Lisa Romano, getting out the ironing board soon. Degustation destination with my favourite answer, the NBA draft. Captain ACAB commented with an orgy with Ronald McDonald and Grimace. Kim Spicer said, court. M. Pitty said, play the US Masters.
That's a green jacket.
We had Peter at Dunks said, insist the wardrobe director at Endemol Stein is put to the sword. Sarah said, works at Katie's. Greg simply said, crazy. Sabaden said, be bumped from next season.
Now, I could just imagine Andy at the PGA, right? He's there and he's like, remember Happy Gilmore? Watch me. Are you too good for your hole?
Banging!
It's banging
Up the fairway. What are we doing? We're banging up the fairway.
I'm going to go pat an alligator. No, that's a real alligator. Oh, what's just going to bite? Oh, it bit my arm off.
I'm going to go pat an alligator. No, it's not an alligator.
I just realised he really is the Uncle Arthur. You know,
He kind of was a bit last night. We'll come back to that in a minute. But
hello, kiddies. Welcome, doctor. Come on in.
so
Make you a cup of tea.
I felt really sorry for Phil Wood. Phil Wood
AKA
is okay.
Percy
So
Weasley.
first of all, Phil Wood is a very highly accomplished chef.
Oh, yes.
And we've seen this. He was in last year as Neil Bandit, somehow amazingly new, on Twitter. He was the person who went against Tessa last year for immunity, and Tessa lost. But Phil is a very highly accomplished chef who it's probably fair to say is not 100% at home on camera.
No. I think he'd be better, more comfortable in his kitchen, just doing his thing, or somewhere quiet, just having a nice cup of tea and kicking back, watching a bit of Masterchef theatre. Basically. So, the Potato Duchess. Was it 8 different steps to the potato? There was boiling, there was mashing, there was pureeing, there was zapping, there was juggling, there was, what else did they have down there? They had rolling down the stairs. You put them through the dishwasher, I believe. You had to splice them and then genetically modify them.
Then you had to sous vide whatever was left.
Clone the leftovers to create the actual...
Recreate the potato and start the process a second time. And then I believe...
Open a portal to a hell dimension.
Yep, put them through that. Once they've been strained through that, you're starting to get to the point where you can work with them. And it was just like so many steps.
Take them to England, get the Queen to actually make them a duchess.
Then you take them to Athens where the torch is lit and you carry them around the globe. Yes. And then once you get them to Australia, they've broken down to the consistency you need to squirt them on a plate. Now, at this point in time, where they were talking about how difficult this potato was to work with and how many big steps there were to work with, I was pulling our microwaved potatoes out of the microwave. Now, I thought they were perfectly fine.
Yes.
I didn't need a million steps.
How good would they have been if we'd straight them through a hell portal?
Look, you know how hard it is to get potatoes through a hell portal? Russet, fine. Not a problem. Spago? No, they don't take. All right? They just don't
rejected
take.
by minor demons.
Now, I kind of felt that Jocks on Philo was trolling the hell out of Phil. So there were a couple of moments. First of all, Callum was trying to do his. Now, obviously, poor Callum, he put his through 15 processes, not 8, and as a result, they just sort of flopped.
They had a bit of fin flop, as
they were just a mash.
Eddie said about her dolphin.
Look, what Callum did was just a mash, and I would have eaten it quite happily.
He just passed them too many times through the hell portal.
Yes. Nothing worse than too many filtrations through the hell mouth.
Yeah, he went through the 5, like there's a whole 7 gates rather than just stopping at the 5.
But...
yes.
What was more important than that was Jock turns around and goes, Phil, you look absolutely horrified. Cut back to Phil, whose face has not moved. And I felt that Jock was trolling the shit out of him. There was a bit later on, when we'll come to it, when we got to the second challenge and Callum was making those amazing noodles.
Yeah.
And he was talking about consistency of noodle. And Jock turns around and goes, Phil, you and I you've got some quite passionate views on noodles and some quite passionately held beliefs about thickness and consistency of noodle. And Phil had a look on his face like, oh, what? We've never had a passionate discussion. How do you have a passionate discussion about consistency of noodle? Phil was like, don't slander me with this shit.
I will stop you there and suggest it was a Facebook conversation, because I will bring your attention to a meme I posted the other day, which basically said, by the age of 30, you should have a form of pasta that you hate with a passion for no particular reason. And boy, did this bring out some fucking hardcore,
There's risoni hate out there.
There's a lot of risoni hate. Me, myself, I'm a farfalle, like a bow tie shape. I'm like, that is useless. My friend's like, but it's good for light sauces. You like pea and speck. And I'm like, it's a pea carrier that makes it even lower in my esteem.
100%.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like spaghetti. A lot of people didn't like the fettuccine.
Controversial statement.
What?
I don't have a pasta I hate.
Of course you don't.
I don't have a single pasta.
You love all pasta.
I do. I love all pasta equally. So I thought that... Look, I thought that poor Phil was clearly being trolled by Jock, who was just like, bring out some personality, and he's like, I'm going to fuck with him. Because they're friends, like they're Adelaide, based, they're friends. So he's clearly just fucking with him. And you can almost hear Phil in his head going, I'm not going to break, but fuck yous on Philo. Just not going to happen. I'm not doing it. So at this point, I need to apologise to Poe.
She wasn't even there last night.
No, this is we're still on Sunday night.
Oh, we're Sunday night.
We're still on Sunday. So, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Oh, we are.
We started with tonight, remember?
Oh, gosh.
So,
I'm all over the
focus.
show.
Focus. Our critics will be saying we're shit, so focus.
We are.
Well, yeah, it was F-less rowboat. So anyway.
Have we ever, professed to be professional?
Well, I have, but anyway.
Not me.
No, but I have, and that's the more important
that's
thing.
you.
So, in terms... Yeah, I'm classy, clearly. So, anyway, as I was saying, we got about 15 minutes in to the first challenge on Sunday night, and they were focusing deeply on Callum being in trouble.
Uh-huh.
And I tweeted out, focuses on Callum failing challenge 1, pose gone. Now, this is the 6th time this series that I've tweeted out what was going to happen at the start of a challenge.
Masterchef banshee.
Can I also point out that I have sent a bunch of messages to people in the weeks that we haven't been doing this, predicting who's going home on the edit, just so I can say to people, here's what I'm predicting.
You're like that cat in that nursing home who predicted everyone who would die. Like, they would just go up and lie next to them.
It's horrendous, I know. And again, it's not because I'm a genius. I'm not. What it is that the edit pattern is, you can predict it. And they've once this year, they did a brilliant job of the throw off on the scent.
Yeah.
And we applauded that. We said it was really good. It's the avoiding the patterns of getting into the pattern of how they do it. That's it. It's literally once you've watched it, and, we've now done 3 series of Masterchef, 4 series of Masterchef. I've lost count. I think it's 4 now.
Oh, man.
4 series of Masterchef, and once you've watched that much Masterchef and focus on every single damn episode
and
of it,
have to talk about it.
And talk about it, you can pick it. Also, the Masterchef without context was they don't look good, which was Callum talking about his potatoes. That might have been the understatement of the week.
Floppy. Oh, that's right. It's the technical. Here we are, Kristie. This is where we're at. Okay.
So focus.
Focus.
So it was Poe, Reese and Callum in the bottom, and it was always... But the question I do want to ask is, does anybody know where they got that giant cutlery from?
It was quite disturbing.
I don't know if Phil was just really small.
No, because everyone had this massive cutlery. It's like they were... Like, what? They know what the dish is. They know how big it's going to be. Why was that a specific choice? Did Phil go, no, we serve it with this size cutlery in the restaurant, and if you don't eat it with this size cutlery, well, you're not getting the full experience.
Yeah. So they then had to use one element and really feature the flavours of that element. Now, when they entered this challenge, there was a comment came from at Tartan Firmus, Amanda, and she commented again, this should be a blind tasting.
Yep.
I agree 100%. The eliminations, especially in the second half of the series, should be blind. Other challenges, I'm fine with it being a visual, but I like the idea of the blind when you get to eliminations. And they did it earlier this year. They did it, and it was great. It was fantastic. Really liked it. I like the idea of that. The problem I think they've got with that is that if they do a blind tasting, then the judges can't be walking around looking at the dishes as they're cooking them, and which is where you could then go with... you've taken one of the hosts from Chef's Line. You could then go with Chef's Line and do it as one person was judging it or 2 people were judging it, and have the other one wandering the kitchen, right? Which is the way you could do that if you wanted to do that, Or in a series where most of them have some level of TV training now, whoever was up on the fucking gantry with immunity does the wander.
And,
which gives them more... like, Reynold would have been able to go bench to bench to bench and talk to people about what they were doing.
And actually show off his food knowledge,
we know how deep that knowledge is. It could have been a great opportunity, right? And again, it's a chance... I think there's a lot of chances to talk technique that because of the story and the narrative of it, and I get what we're doing, but you could talk a bit more technique at times. Right, we know they've all got technique. They could have done more to boost this, especially once it became apparent what was going to happen. So, what was going to happen? It got really obvious. So, why did it get really obvious? The Channel 10 editors decided that they wanted to have a bit of a play. So, once Pose started to melt, we got a vocal effect on Laura. Like Poe was fading out. Laura was talking, are you okay, Poe? And it was, are you okay, Poe? Are you okay? And it was getting Obi-Wan use the Force, Luke.
Yeah, I was
almost.
waiting for like a misty kind of like frame. You know, like a bit of the.
But they were trying to do the whole we're in Poe's head while she slowly disintegrates. And it happened a few times where they did it where they were tuning out the audio and Poe was just staring into the middle distance. And they were trying to give us the Poe breakdown.
We get it. This is not just Poe in peril. This is Poe on the way out.
Yeah, and
But
like
really
what was? But Jock was
necessary and dignified.
Well, Jock
Poe,
was,
you know, who is in line to become the next, you know, darling of Australia once Maggie moves on to the Golden Gods.
She's never doing that. She's never doing that. Maggie's not giving up the throne. Verjuice Fields forever.
She's going to become a lich.
Anyway, how do you know she's not already?
True.
Verjuice.
Yeah, and
It's pickling. Duh. All right, so Jock was desperately trying to understand what Poe was doing.
Yeah.
And not in a smug or smarmy way. Jock was really working with Poe to get her to explain her dish. And Poe just threw a bunch of words. Now, we've talked about this before. Poe is an avant-garde artist who works beautifully when she's got that ability to just create random. Again, occasionally that leads to chaos and bedlam. Unfortunately, in this challenge, Poe was probably going to be okay until in the middle of her cook she stopped and went, I need to do this. And it was not related to the first thing she needed to do.
it really did feel like she had... it was a negative headspace because it was all about she needed to redeem herself. Like, she hadn't committed any sins. Like, something just didn't work, you know, and that happens. You don't need to redeem yourself. Poe is her best when she's just like, balls to the wall, I'm fucking doing it, let's go. And I'm just like, is this the hill she wants to die on? Now,
I think there were a couple of really... Like, I really want to talk a lot about Callum's noodles. I said noodles, plural.
And his taters.
Anyway, so I wanted to talk about Callum's noodles because they looked superb.
Yeah.
Like, the buckwheat noodles, he's like, there's mushroom here, and there's mushroom here, and there's mushroom here, there's mushroom in all of these elements.
Yeah.
I would have just destroyed that bowl of food, and I make no qualms about that.
His broth looked fucking brilliant.
So I thought it looked incredible. I loved what Reese did. I thought that the layering with the shards and the way that he did the potato was just beautiful. Mm-hmm. I thought, again, Reese's development has been something that I think we've all seen, and I think everyone's delighted in watching it.
Yeah.
Like, he has just elevated, and I hate using Masterchef words, but he has. He's elevated everything that he does.
And he heroed that potato beautifully.
I loved what he did too, in terms of, we've talked a lot about this, what Reese did that was perfect. Mm-hmm. Tasting plate.
Uh-huh.
Most of them have not been tasting, well, they might have, but they're not showing it, right? Again, narrative and creation. Reese created a small version of it to taste it and went, the balance with that ice cream's not working. The ice cream, the chocolate's too strong. And then he workshopped a solution. We saw the process of workshopping the solution.
Yeah.
And the smaller amount of the chocolate balanced it. And made it work. So it was really good to see his thought process. This is what we're watching for. If we're talking about this idea, and again, all the stuff tonight was, they're highly skilled, these are professionals. Good. Show us the techniques. Yeah. Show us this ability they've all got, which is, I think, absolutely brilliant. Give us more of that. But his potato stack, fantastic, as a dessert. And then poor Poe. Look, now, the last question I want to ask on this before we move on to what happened last night. Why did Poe have this thing all season where she kept on wanting to redeem dishes? Because it's what cost her, right? She could have made anything.
Well, she said she had a Chinese dish in mind that was based around mushrooms.
But then decided that she wanted to go back and remake the thing that she got wrong in the big challenge, the dumplings. And I couldn't work out. It's happened once or twice where she's gone, I need to redeem this. I need to redeem this. I'm perfectly sure that everybody in Australia would have gone, No, you're good. Make something cool.
Just make that like on a Studio 10 or something when you go.
Yeah. Go on Studio 10, go, hey guys, look, I found this, I'm going to show you what actually happens now when I take my time with it and do blah, blah, blah. You don't need to make redemption dishes.
She's got a whole fucking show she could do it on.
Exactly. And an amazing Insta and an amazing social media presence. So you can do all these things in other ways. So I thought that I felt really bad for the idea that she felt the need to do that. That was what annoyed me.
It really felt like a bit of self-sabotage, or just like the black dog, or just the negative Nancy's in your head that pop out. And we all have those.
All right, so the terrarium last night, the mystery box. Now, it was quite interesting because we were actually watching, just before we got to MasterChef, we were watching an episode of Crazy Delicious on Netflix.
Where someone had created a trifle in a terrarium.
Yeah. Now, it's batshit. It's an absolutely batshit show. And again, I'm not saying batshit in a bad way. I'm not saying batshit in a good way. Like any show, I'm assuming that Hester Blumenthal went into this thing because they told him he would be referred to as a god.
He's like, finally, the recognition I deserve.
I'm quite certain that Heston went into that show being told, well, so you're one of the gods, and enough.
I'm there.
And it's been an interesting show because there's been weeks where you've had people that are clearly really good, and there's been weeks
where they've clearly been on Insta and people have gone, that looks really good, let's get them in.
Yeah, and I think that's been, like, that terrarium episode was the Insta people.
Yes.
It didn't quite work.
No.
Right, so we finished that, we turned on MasterChef, and there's a fucking terrarium. So I thought that it was the idea of the nature, and that was when we got excited that there might be a foraging challenge.
We're like, it's coming.
I looked at it, Kristie, and just went,
under
we
this
might
table
get
are
this.
your knapsacks.
We might get this right.
Yeah.
By the way, is there anyone on the planet who would be more upset than missing out on a foraging challenge than Khan?
No.
Khan would have been devastated if they'd done a foraging challenge. So basically the idea was nature, and it was linked to the idea of the memory and nature and those sorts of things. And so Amelia went with s'mores. Now, first of all, inspired.
Yeah.
Now, the idea of pulling off, as they said, a top 5 s'more.
Yeah.
Look, I thought if anyone could manage to pull off a top 5 s'more, I thought it was Amelia.
Yeah.
By the way, the interesting thing about last night and Sunday night was that there really weren't any horrific, obviously, apart from Poe's disaster at the end, there weren't horrific dishes. Everyone did a really good job of things.
Absolutely.
Like, that was the thing. Like, the other night in the in that challenge, like, Callum was, Callum and Reese were perfect in that second round.
Yeah, and this is what
you want.
It's the kind of TV that I love, and that's why I think I was even more disappointed with tonight's episode, where it was a battle of the best.
They could have sold all 3.
Oh, absolutely.
And this goes back to our Bake Off background, but our Bake Off background is that one of the things we love about Bake Off so much is that it's usually people going home just because someone has to, but everyone's really good, and it's not a massive failure, as opposed to what MasterChef has been traditionally, not as much this season. Kudos where it's due. But in previous seasons, it's been a case of who fails, rather than people just succeeding and someone has to be the odd one out.
And how good would the advertising have been? It would have been like, it's the best of the best.
A battle of 3 amazing dishes.
Yeah.
No, who will? Rather than all of Australia has been waiting for, because that's also going to turn a narrative.
That's bullshit.
However...
And we don't even know what we're waiting for. And... did we need to wait for it? No.
However, what I saw last night, let's start with, first of all, I want to start with those s'mores. Because Davidson Plum, obviously on sale at Coles. It's next to the liquid nitrogen and the wings. So Davidson Plums were a thing last night and everyone was using them. Again, we talk about leaning into what the judges like. Jock.
Yeah.
Leaning into what the judges like. But the Davidson, it looked, the marshmallow, forget even the rest of the s'more, that marshmallow.
Yep.
I would quite happily have just walked out with that. Thank you very much. I'm going home now. It reminded me of the best marshmallow I've ever eaten, and I'm going to give her a shout out here. Monica Carvalho. At Moorish Cakes.
She's a bloody gem.
So former Bake Off contestant Monica at Moorish Cakes. She made some of the greatest marshmallows. She also made a fatal mistake of handing me the container and saying, "Hold this" at a Bake Off grand final.
He did.
Now, I did hold it. I also helped her to empty the container.
Popped it in his face.
I might have actually snatched one off Matt Moran because he was going for one. I'm like, that's mine.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I know.
That's ballsy. Have you made an enemy for life?
No.
Are we never ever going to get to talk to Matt and Maggie?
Matt's not very good with names. He wouldn't remember me. So
He was blind. He wouldn't know you.
he couldn't see me. He could just see Marshmallow. So the s'more idea I thought was fantastic. I thought it was a really cool concept, and it was really really interesting.
Very evocative.
Yeah.
And like I know we saw last year, I think it was someone had popped, I think it was meat on lemon myrtle to cook, and I can't remember who that was, but to me it was reminiscent of that. But what a beautiful evocative technique that was.
And there's another thing I want to mention.
up.
There's another thing I want to mention with this.
What?
The questioning, right? So we talked the other week about when Jock, we said probably accidentally, tipped to Reynold that he forgot
the sponge?
He forgot the sponge. And look, I genuinely believe that he wasn't trying to tip him off. He did. That became a bigger problem. But he was trying to question. So what we got last night I thought was brilliant. Melissa goes over and tests Amelia's marshmallow. Tastes it, is like, and then looks at her and goes, how do you feel about the balance of that?
Yep.
Now, that's the way to make people question life choices. Without tipping, is it good or is it bad?
It's not a whole lot of... Where's the
Not
sugar?
empty words.
Where's the sweetness in that?
There weren't empty words there. It was a case of legitimately think through your process.
It was a coaching process, not a management process.
And it's also a reminder to taste.
Yep.
Right? And again, something we don't see enough of, although again I am sure it happens, but we don't see it, is the idea of tasting dishes as you're cooking them, because you want to get your seasonings right. You want to get that balance right.
Yep.
I thought another interesting thing last night was Reese's popsicle idea. I thought Reese's popsicle idea was hilariously brilliant. And I loved the way that everyone's felt a bit Reynold inspired. Mm-hmm. And what we got with that idea was Reese's going, they're not setting. They're going for a liquid nitrogen bath. They looked great. They're like, oh, there's a Magnum. Yeah, but a Magnum with Aussie ingredients. And you saw Jock's eyes go bing, 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 bing. They looked amazing.
Coming to your local BP.
Now, it was, to be fair, a parfait.
Yeah.
But it was a parfait presented on a stick.
It was a fun parfait.
It was a fun fay.
It was a moulded fay.
It was a fun fay.
Fun fay.
Everyone's back to the fun fay.
Which is a pun fay.
No, that was horrible.
Okay.
So, I thought...
I'm going to deduct points on me for that.
You really should. So we had the Amelia's Davidson Plum S'mores. Now I'm trying to remember who did someone last year did the sticks, the branches as the serving.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I can't remember who it was, but there was someone...
And they put meat, like I remember meat being on
it was
the
meat
end.
on the end of it. I can't remember who it was. Someone out there will remember it and point it out.
Okay. Oh my God, it was blah, blah, blah. You idiot.
Now, Laura, she did make pasta. As they said, it was the first time in a very long time. And there was a lot of the mushroom tortellini, and she talked about the idea of it wasn't just pasta for the sake of pasta. We were talking about, growing up in Italy, growing up with her nonna, the importance. And again, if you remember her season, the story of her and her nonna was a very big part of the narrative.
Yeah.
Huge part of the narrative. So, and again, it was something that was quite an emotional cook for Laura, and she has not made pasta in a very long time. And I felt it was okay to go back and do this because it met the challenge and met what they were talking about. So, again, if she'd been making pasta for the last 6 weeks...
I'd call her on it.
Look, Reynolds' mushroom dessert looked really good. It did look really good. The techniques were all there.
Even when it was a little poop.
Even when it was a little poop at one point, which was just funny. Look, I'm not going to mention where he got the inspiration for that from. You can probably put two and two together, but I'm not criticising it for that. I'm just...
No.
Yeah, again, it was a good dish. So I thought, and the other thing I mentioned last night about Laura was there's been a lot of talk about the pasta, but I think the thing that is actually underrated with Laura is the way she does broths and sauces and oils.
Yeah.
They just look delectable. Like every time she does one.
And it's like a double, like she put down a broth and an oil.
Yeah, there'll be an oil and a broth. Or there'll be the inside will have one, and then there'll be a broth or an oil on the outside to do the accoutrement, so to speak. Now, I thought the interesting part was as well, Andy was talking about, I love an ice cream. So the trick to Drunkle Andy seems to be serve everything like it's an ice cream.
Yeah, like, if you're making a cake, make it look like an ice cream.
Put it on a stick.
Put it on a stick.
Cake on a stick.
Just a paddle pop.
A paddle pop tort.
Paddle pop top. Just a billabong bunt.
Billabong bunt.
Paddle pop tort.
Paddle pop tort. A billabong bunt.
An icy pole pavlova. I don't know why I'm just going cake-based here.
I don't know. Anyway, well, I know why, because Andy hates cake.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
I also loved the idea that when they were talking about the forest and foraging, and Callum comes up, and Callum goes, so all these people have been deeply creative with the way they've come up with these stories and their narratives. I've gone really logical, and I've literally just made things that look like you're foraging. So I've made bark.
But his inspiration came from the Adelaide Hills, where he makes
the Verjuice Fields.
The Verjuice Fields.
just outside Stately Beer Manor.
Yeah.
The Verjuice Fields.
Yes, with the Maggie Copter flying over.
Look, there's an absolute joy to watching him. Now, I do also want to make mention of two things before we wrap up. First of all, Sir Render Monkey on Twitter had my favourite comment of the week. New merch idea for Masterchef. The Poe oven timer. Which is like one of those Garfield dolls with suction cup hands, but it just stares into the oven door and never buzzes. I thought that was good. And secondly,
you get an accompanying one with like a crouching Melissa next to it.
Crouching Melissa. The other one was something that you spotted last night.
Yeah.
At the start of the episode. We're sitting here, the episode starts, and this voice to my right just goes, oh my God, this is the day they shot the promo for MasterChef.
Yes, they were wearing exactly what they were wearing in the promo, going, come along and audition.
Now,
if you could actually get into Melbourne.
But the main reason you know about that is Melissa's green dress.
Yes.
Which was
my God.
Twitter. I've never seen Twitter love an item of clothing more than that dress.
I just imagined her walking out of the salon in the Emerald City. Like, it was that beautiful, vibrant emerald green, which I'm seeing a lot of at the moment. I'm like, do I redo my bedroom in emerald green? I've got a very, it's not a huge bedroom. I couldn't make it look luxe, but it would be green, and I could, put, a horse of many colours.
Well, now you've given everyone a tour of the bedroom. Let's move on. So, we go into, obviously, next week, which they're talking about being finals week. Now, I'm really intrigued to see what the schedule is. Because, obviously, we're down to, we're going to be losing another one to get to 4. Are we going to just drop one a night and then go to a grand final next Sunday? I don't know. I need to look at the guide. We will then obviously adjust our podcast schedule around whatever the schedule is. So at the moment we're planning for the Tuesday only, but who knows? This might change rapidly. If it does, we will mention it on all the social medias.
Yeah.
Hopefully the conversation tonight's been a bit more nuanced than Twitter can allow.
Yeah.
I really hope that people who might disagree with some of our views on what we've been talking about, I hope people listen to it and take something from it and understand where we're coming from it at, which is not a position of disliking Reynold, but there's just a whole other range of things going on there which we've sort of hopefully addressed. Because I don't want to keep talking about it. We're into the good bit.
Yeah.
We're into the fun bit.
And something I've remarked on tonight to you, Chris, this is the first season in years where I've gone, I'm not feeling like I'm having to grind through
This isn't a chore.
This is not a chore.
Last couple of seasons have been a chore. Last year was a massive slog at the end.
And we have to admit, there was a bit of, and I don't even want to say energy because there's so much commitment on everyone's part, but there was a bit of a lull. I'll just say a minor lull when the COVID stuff actually hit home. But it never got to the point that I was at with the previous judges going, oh my God, shoot me now. How the fuck am I going to get through this?
We did have a couple of podcasts last year which involved conversations with you going, do we have to?
Yeah.
There were a few of those. But, we haven't had those conversations this year because it's been a fun series. Look, the way I'll leave this podcast is really simple. I said this to someone the other day who I was talking to about what's been going on with MasterChef this year. And as I said to them, it's been the absolute... I'm not going to go, it's the best of times, it's the worst of times, because that's cliched and crap. But we have seen the best of MasterChef.
Yep.
And we've had the occasional, what the fuck is that?
But not the worst of MasterChef.
But not the absolute worst. But we've had the occasional moment where everyone's gone, oh shit, here's the turn.
Yeah.
Right? Now we've given in terms of the challenges, I think they do get a little bit of leeway. And I raised that the other day when someone said this challenge feels very open-ended. And we said, yeah, but COVID gives them a little bit of a pass. They've had to rewrite the second half of this series in COVID.
Yeah, and obviously there was a lot more like outings. I'm sure we would have seen them at some, like a state or going to a location.
And they were probably going to bring some more people in too, and they had to stop that because they couldn't bring other people in as well. So that's obviously impacted on what's going on, although as they've already sort of given away on some of the ads that have been coming up for what's going to happen during COVID. We're going to see Mr. Ramsay again this week on Video Link because they've already shown that. They showed it a couple of weeks ago where they showed Gordon going, I'm back.
Yeah.
So obviously we're going to see more of Gordon. It's first ever Zoom cook-off. Who knows?
Woohoo.
But so I'll be interested to see what happens in finals week. It's going to be a different finals week to any other finals week we've ever seen. But I think overall they've done a brilliant job with it. And I think it's something that we all need to sort of step back. And for the most part, even with all of this going on, Twitter's been a fairly positive place. And I know it sounds weird for me to say that after everything else, but Twitter's been really positive.
Yeah, people can have differences of like opinions and
there's
stuff.
also a lot of other stuff going on at the moment that feeds into that. So, and hope everyone in Victoria is doing okay.
Yeah, particularly like people in Melbourne. Like this is hardcore what's going on.
It's shit. And the whole situation at the moment is shit. And hopefully everyone in Melbourne does the best they can and everyone sort of gets through this as best they can, although you're not going to have MasterChef to get you through the rest of this because we're almost at the end. So, until next week, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we'll catch you all later.
Oh, look, it's a drumstick in a drumstick.